Hi everybody. So today I would like to review a book called Beyond the Creek by Nico Bell, and I'll just give you a quick look at the awesome. Look at that. Look at how cool that is. Beyond the Creek by Nico Bell. And I've been trying to find a bio for Nico Bell, and I can't seem to find too much. She's an American author. Sorry about that. My camera fell over. Okay. So, Nico Bell is a horror author and editor, and she's actually, there's an upcoming book called Diet Riot, a Fatterpunk anthology, which I thought about submitting something for, but unfortunately I ran out of time on that, as I usually do. But Beyond the Creek was released in January, I believe. It looks like her first review on her blog site, which is nicobellfiction.com, was a sorry, it looks like it was released in June, and I follow Nico on Twitter, and I think that's actually where the ad came up for Beyond the Creek, which is why I grabbed it. I shouldn't wave my hand in front of the camera like that. It looks really weird. Anyway, oh, here we go. So she was born in New York, 1983, started a writing career as a Christian fiction writer under a different name, semifinalist in the American Christian Fiction Writer Genesis Contest, which is kind of interesting. Finalist in the Romance Writers of America Music City Melody of Love Contest. Finalist in the Splickety and My Book Therapy Flash Fiction Contest, and finalist in the RWA Great Beginnings Contest. Her flash fiction has been featured in Splickety and Spark. Her love of psychological thrillers and twisted plots led Nico into the world of horror, where she unleashed her unsuspecting characters. Her stories have been published in several collections, including the second Corona Book of Horror Stories, Drabble Dark Anthology, and her debut novel, Food Fright, was released in 2020. So that's Nico Bell in a nutshell. And she's done some author interviews, she's done some reviews, and yeah, so she's got a pretty slick website too, if you ever want to check that out, at nicobellfiction.com. So today we're going to talk about her book, Beyond the Creek. It's a novella. It's a pretty quick read. It's only 127 pages. It starts out as pretty standard kind of gothic fiction. It's about a young woman who is pregnant, and she has just left an abusive relationship. And she's always a little bit afraid that her ex is going to come and find her. So she takes a job as a caretaker for an elderly gentleman who's had a stroke. And this fellow's wife is the matriarch. And it's a big family, and they've got a big house on the edge of a woods, and they tell her, don't go beyond the creek. That's the limits of the property. But of course, being the heroine in a gothic fiction story, Alex is the character's name, she doesn't do what she's supposed to do. One day she's in the basement, and she comes across this weird room full of these old velvet, were they velvet or silk? Anyway, these old robes. And she's wondering, there's something seriously weird going on here. And she sees, and again, it's, kind of house on the edge of a woods. Well, of course, it's got to be a mysterious figure out in the woods trying to figure out what this mystery is. And so obviously this is a rich old family with a lot of secrets, and one of the members of the family that she's taking care of is the old guy's granddaughter, and the rich, powerful matriarch. Their granddaughter is named Callie, and Callie's a pretty precocious 9 going on 10-year-old. But she's not really responsible for the care of Callie. Callie is just kind of around. And the only friends she has in the whole town are a lesbian couple named Helen and Jay. And she settles into her new life pretty well, but she keeps kind of stumbling into places that she shouldn't be and getting in trouble for it, which, of course, the governess in a gothic story will tend to do. So one night she's in the house and she hears this scrittering and knocking upstairs, and she's wondering what's going on. And she sees this horrifying thing come out of the shadows. So she freaks out, and the only person she can call is the child's father, who is around but shouldn't really be in contact with the family. And because of the power that the old lady has, he doesn't get too close, but he is around. So he reveals to her that Callie's mother's gone missing, and that he wants to take Callie away and take care of her, but this old lady's just too rich and powerful, and she's got the police in her back pocket, and everybody's afraid of her. So again, more things keep going on. She sees the old lady inject the old guy with something that looks like a syringe. Maybe it's just a sleep medication. Maybe you don't know. So the book works on a lot of sleight of hand. And finally, on Callie's 10th birthday, a whole bunch of people are coming from miles around. And then the story just sort of explodes into monster horror, and it's a lot of fun. It's so much fun. I mean, if you like that sort of thing. It is a little bit far-fetched, but it would be really, really amusing to see it as a B movie and see how the special effects work for this type of narrative. And so it's a very fun read. There's some good body horror. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars. Now, the reason it missed a star is that there was either a typo or a grammatical or word error frequently, like, lay versus lie, or then used rather than than, THEN, THAN. Little things like that where the correct word is used in the wrong context, and that got a little bit annoying to me. I know I'm just so annoyingly petty and fussy about these things, but for some reason they just seem to stick out, and I get pulled out of the narrative for it. But on the plus side, Alex is an engaging character. The family that she's working for is full of freaks. I would like to read more about this family. I would like to know more about this whole cult that she's created. And I use cult in the very loosest sense of the word because it's hilariously out there. It's a fantastic horror cult type of story. It's not actually a cult, but I'm going to just use that word because deception and sleight of hand are part of the narrative, and that's also part of the fun, especially if you're working with a gothic type story. And the ending, I found the ending a little bit abrupt, but I think that there are probably more directions that the story could have gone in, but it was also it made it a very quick read, and the sting in the tail was very nice. And I think it suffers from the same issues that most novellas do. Novellas are, if it's too long to be a short story, but too short to be a novel, what do you do with it? Do you expand it into a novel and have a lot of backstory and maybe a secondary story, or do you shorten it and keep it as tight and short as possible? And novellas I've always found it's very rare that I find a novella that works well within its own time structure, its own space, if that makes sense. The other thing that I really found interesting was the subtext of women's power. The story uses the myth of Arachne, who was the woman who she challenged Athena to a weaving contest. Or was it Athena? Yeah, I think it was Athena. Or maybe it was Hecate. I can't remember. Anyway, she challenged one of the goddesses to a weaving contest, which is the worst kind of hubris. You never challenge a god or goddess to anything because you're gonna lose. Like, what the hell were you thinking? And punishment for her pride, she was turned into a spider, and she was the first spider. And so there's a sort of a subtext there of women's power. And one of the things that's really interesting about it is that most of the characters, the majority of the characters, are women. There's only 2 significant male characters. Well, 3, I guess, if you count the X. And they are very, very much on the sidelines. And they only have minor roles in the whole character of the book. And then I thought it was really a really interesting little peek at the way that women have power. When a woman is powerful, how much power she can have, and the way that women can control each other and control the events as they're happening. So I thought that was a really interesting little look. And I don't know if that was, deliberate on the author's part, or if it was just something that I picked up. But Beyond the Creek by Nico Bell, nice quick read, 4 out of 5 stars. Hope you're reading lots of great horror. Have a great day.